What was the closest you've ever been to killing someone? I was driving to my aunt's house down a residential street, speed limit 25. I was going the speed limit and maybe a little less because the sun was setting and in my eyes. In the shade of a tree, this kid rides leisurely across the street. He had to have seen me because there were no cars parked on the street and it wasn't a hill. I didn't see him because of the sun in my eyes and him in the shade of a tree until I was inches from his bike. I slammed on my brakes, slammed on my horn, and just barely missed the kid. He didn't even look at me, didn't acknowledge my presence. It was as if I didn't exist. Maybe he was deaf, I don't know. There were no deaf children at play signs on the street. After collecting myself from the panic attack, I drove on. When I looked in my rearview mirror, he was still in the middle of the road on his bike, this time with another kid talking to him. I assume the other kid saw the kid on the bike almost get hit by a car. Nurse here. Unit was very busy and I mentioned to a patient we needed to start her on antibiotics. Patient consented. I hung penicillin, only to find out our computer said she's anaphylactic allergic to penicillin. Incredibly, she must have outgrown her childhood allergy. Beat myself up for a long time for that near miss. Won't make that mistake again. When my younger sister was in middle school, she took a very sudden and unexplained dip in personality. She went from being a bouncy, sunny kid who loved going outside and seeing her friends to kind of reserved and struggling to keep her grades up. Her friends stopped coming around, crazy rumors about her started, and she was just overall really depressed and nervous. Our parents were very into the just suck it up mentality, so they told her to just push through and be better. I tried to get her to tell me what had happened and she told me the same thing she told our parents, that kids at school were bullying her and her friends were being mean. I didn't buy it, but there was nothing I could do. One day at the dinner table, we were all talking about town gossip as was family custom, and my mom brought up how a teacher at my sister's school was looking for a hand in getting rid of some old furniture from his late father's house and that my mother had volunteered the family to help out that coming weekend. My sister immediately broke down into having sobs, howling at the top of her lungs as though someone had died, and you can probably guess where it went from there. She confessed that her teacher's son, who was a sophomore when my sister was in 7th grade, had assaulted her, and when she tried to tell the teacher about it, he shut her down and called her a liar and had said he would fail her if she tried to tell anyone about it. I had to spend the following day in class with this asshole while my parents sorted out how to handle the situation, and it took everything I had not to lose my shit on this kid. I am not a violent person, but I had to sit there with him a foot away and all I could think about was smashing his face into the tile until the light left his eyes. That was over 10 years ago and he's in jail now, but I still think I'd have to contain myself if I was in the same room as him again. My mum was dying in hospice. It was undignified and she was in a lot of pain, but she was still lucid. I asked her if she wanted me to help her speed things up. For context, she was a nurse before she got sick and I knew what I could do to make things happen. She told me she wished I could, but didn't want me to get in trouble or go to jail. We laughed about it a little bit. I maintained I would have a ball in jail. She died later that week. I spent most of it by her side. I am 100% pro-assisted euthanasia. Watching her go was torturous. I was working as a contractor way back in the day, and was looking for an address. I missed the turn and pulled into an apartment complex parking lot to turn around. I'm going maybe 3 miles an hour through the lot and there are a row of parked cars to my right. Just passing them when out of nowhere a toddler wearing nothing but a diaper darted up from between the parked cars right into the path of my car. Fortunately, I was going slow enough. I stopped just shy of hitting him, maybe an inch or two. No parent in sight. I got out, picked the kid up, and finally found his responsible adult standing in the open doorway of their apartment around the corner, having a smoke and chatting on the phone. They couldn't even see the kid from their line of sight, not that they were making an effort to look. Had I actually hit that kid, I would have had a lifetime of trauma and who knows what that poor kid would have suffered, all because of that asshole. Let me just start by saying my dad was extremely abusive. Mentally, physically and emotionally. He beat on my mother and I quite a bit. He also hunted a lot, deer mostly, and it was a big tradition in our family for the uncles and cousins to all go together. My grandmother, Mom's mom, pulled me aside the day before opening day, and told me she would buy me a car. I was 15, almost 16 at the time, if I shot my dad out in the woods. She told me no one would ever know, and she would get me the best lawyer money could buy if it came to that. I agreed. To this day, I wish I would have pulled the trigger. I was too scared and my conscience got the best of me. I know I would have gotten away with it. And it would have saved my family so much trouble down the road. He's dead now, but I wish I could have been the one to do it. Nearly killed my friend at age 15 when I dared him. He was already drunk and always up for this kind of thing. To down half a liter of vodka because he was annoying me, then went home leaving him with my other friends. Came to find out, he'd then spent roughly 3 hours throwing up into a shower drain and nearly had to go to hospital for alcohol poisoning, but his dad had arrived and taken him home instead. Came in on the Monday to school genuinely worried I'd be called into the headmaster's office to tell me I had caused the death of my friend. When I apologized to him for having him down the vodka, he just went, "Oh, that was you." Huh, no way, and we are still friends to this day 10 years later. Knocked on a door for a loud music complaint and announced myself, "Police, we are here about the noise." Drunk guy answered the door with a handgun pointed straight at where I would have been standing, if I hadn't been trained never to stand right in front of the door. My gun went to his head, my finger went to the trigger, he dropped his gun at just the right fraction of a second and I was able to stop myself mid-depress. It was a BB gun. He was attempting suicide by cop but instinctively dropped the gun. Idiot called the noise complaint on himself. Thank you for listening to Reddit Archives. Make sure to subscribe for more content and follow us on social media.